It all started on what I thought would be a quiet Saturday morning. The sun was rising over the water, the lake was calm, and I had just taken my boat out for a short spin. It was a routine I loved. Mornings like that reminded me why I had chosen this property in the first place. But by the time I brought the boat back in, there was a note taped to my dock. It wasn't from a neighbor. It was from the HOA. The message was short, printed in all capital letters, and it said, "Boats are not permitted on this lake. Remove immediately or face fines." I actually laughed out loud. Boats weren't permitted. This was my lake. I had grown up here. My family had owned the water rights since my grandfather purchased the land decades ago. When the HOA was formed later on, they built houses around the lake, but they never owned the lake itself. Still, they acted as if they did. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe someone new on the board didn't realize. So I decided to call the HOA president. He answered with that smug tone I'd come to expect. I explained politely that the note must have been left in error, because I, in fact, owned the lake. His response stunned me. "No," he said flatly. "You own the property by the shore, but the lake is common space. The Homeowners Association manages it. That means no boats, period." I reminded him about the deed, the legal documents, and the water rights that had been in my family for years. He brushed it off, saying the HOA had voted on a rule against boats because they didn't like the ripples disturbing their view. That's when I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a power move. The next day, I took my boat out again, just like always. Within 15 minutes, 2 HOA board members came marching down to my dock, waving clipboards and shouting that I was in violation of the rules. They threatened fines, legal action, and even hinted they could revoke my access to community amenities if I didn't comply. I couldn't help but laugh. "Community amenities," I said. "The lake isn't yours, it's mine. You're standing on my dock right now, threatening me with rules that don't apply." That only made them angrier. They scribbled notes, took pictures of my boat, and stormed off. I knew what was coming next. Official letters, threats, and maybe even lawyers. Sure enough, within a week, I received a certified letter. It accused me of violating HOA bylaws and demanded I remove my boat or face escalating fines. They even threatened to place a lien on my property if I refused to comply. I didn't get angry. Instead, I got strategic. I pulled out the original deed, the water rights agreement, and a legal opinion I had obtained years ago, just in case something like this ever happened. Then I drafted my response. I sent a letter back to the HOA with copies of all the documents. In it, I made things crystal clear. The lake was privately owned, under my name, with rights registered at the county. The HOA had no jurisdiction over it, and if they continued trespassing, threatening, or attempting to fine me, I would take them to court for harassment and damages. That should have been the end of it. But of course, it wasn't. Instead of backing down, the HOA doubled down. They called a meeting with the neighborhood and spread the story that I was endangering the community by allowing motorboats on their lake. They painted me as reckless, claiming the boat was a hazard, an eyesore, and a disturbance to the peace. Some neighbors believed them, others didn't. But the board clearly wanted to turn this into a public battle. I decided it was time to go on the offensive. I filed a trespass notice with the county sheriff, officially warning HOA members that the lake and dock were private property and not to be entered without permission. Then, I had signs posted around the water, citing the property records and declaring private ownership. That alone caused a stir, but I wasn't finished. When the HOA tried to levy fines against me anyway, I refused to pay. They sent more threatening letters. I sent them back unopened with "Return to sender, invalid," stamped across the envelope. Finally, they attempted to file a lien on my property. That was their biggest mistake. My attorney and I met them in court armed with decades-old deeds, water rights certificates, and even aerial maps showing the original boundaries. The judge didn't need long to make a decision. The HOA, he said, had absolutely no authority over the lake. Their fines were invalid, their threats baseless, and their attempted lien unlawful. In fact, the judge went further. He ruled that the HOA had trespassed when they entered my dock and harassed me. They were ordered to pay my legal fees and issue a formal apology. The look on their faces in that courtroom was priceless. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. The same board members who had strutted around acting like kings of the community suddenly went silent. Neighbors who had believed their lies started to realize the truth. People began approaching me privately, apologizing for the way they'd voted in meetings, admitting they hadn't known the full story. And as for me, I still take my boat out every